You're listening to the Dispassionate ADF Veteran's Voice. Each episode is generated and narrated using artificial intelligence, specifically Google's Notebook LM, drawing from official records like the Royal Commission Final Report, government strategies, inquiry reports, and lived experience accounts. The narration is delivered in American accents, as that is all that is available in this emerging AI tool. Don't let that distract you. This isn't the voice of any one veteran or organisation. It's Australia's veterans' story, told through evidence, not opinion. Here are your hosts.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We take the sources, cut through the noise, and hopefully get you right to the core insights. Today, we're tackling something quite complex, a real paradox. The support system for veterans and their families. It's huge, it's well-funded, but, well, the reports consistently say it's incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes, to actually navigate successfully. So our mission today is to figure out why. Why is it so fragmented? We're looking at the sheer number of players involved and what the veteran community is actually asking for, a more joined-up, centralized way of getting help.
Yeah, and that paradox you mentioned, that's really the heart of it in all the research we looked at. It's absolutely not about a lack of money or even a shortage of services. The sources describe it more like a disparate network of agents. No single strategy, no clear governance, no real accountability framework holding it all together. So you've got billions being spent, thousands of people involved. But because there's no cohesion, the whole thing often just doesn't work effectively.
Okay, let's try and map this out a bit. When we talk about this transition ecosystem, it's not just one department, right? Like DVA, it's this huge web. Who are we actually talking about? Who does a veteran potentially have to deal with?
Oh, it's pretty much everyone involved in that transition journey. You start with defense. Naturally, that's the point of separation. Then you've got the Department of Veterans Affairs, DVA, doing claims, compensation, plus the Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation. They handle the entitlement side. And then beyond government, there are literally thousands of ex-service organizations, the ESOs, plus other veteran support groups, community hubs popping up. It's a lot.
Wow. Okay, so multiple government departments, charities, local groups. It's incredibly spread out. A veteran isn't just going to one place for help. They might be juggling, 3, 4 government bodies and maybe dozens of different charities, all with their own rules.
Exactly right. And that complexity, that's the real burden here. I mean, imagine you're already having a tough time, maybe feeling vulnerable, and suddenly you have to become your own expert case manager, figuring it all out. People in the veteran community, they talk about how hard it is, just navigating it all, finding the right service when they need it, finding that single source of truth for information. It's overwhelming. Information overload, and people just understandably give up sometimes.
That phrase really sticks out. Saturated with service options, but not delivering. If the money and the programs are there, what's the core structural problem the research points to, beyond just the sheer number of organizations?
It comes back to that lack of a unifying strategy we mentioned earlier. Everyone's kind of focused on their own piece of the puzzle, claims over here, mental health there, maybe housing support somewhere else, but nobody's really looking at the veteran's whole journey, managing it from start to finish. But what's interesting is that targeted efforts can make a difference. We saw that with the Veteran-Centric Reform Program, the VCR.
Okay, the VCR. Let's talk about that for a second. What was different about it? Was it just about speed?
Well, speed was part of it, but the real shift was focusing more on the client's experience rather than just ticking bureaucratic boxes. They streamlined things, simplified the approach, especially for compensation claims through the My Service portal. And they got the processing time down from, get this, 109 days on average down to 31 days.
Wow, that's a massive difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
But, and this is important, the sources also note that even the VCR needed constant attention, constant supervision to keep it on track, which kind of proves the point. Even successful reforms can get bogged down by the underlying complexity of the whole system.
Right. So going back a bit, this complexity has deep roots. You mentioned the repatriation system wasn't originally built for this kind of long-term continuous demand.
Not really, no. The original Repatriation Commission after World War I, the idea was it would sort of quietly wither away once those veterans were looked after. But then, of course, history happened. You had World War II, Korea, Vietnam, then more recent deployments, East Timor, Afghanistan, Iraq. Each wave meant the department's work continued, expanded, changed. It was constantly being added to, patched up. So that sheer length of time, the expanding scope, It all contributes to this really complex, layered, and frankly, pretty clunky structure we have now.
Yeah.
It wasn't really redesigned for the modern era.
And that leads us straight to the human impact, because this complexity isn't just about delays or paperwork, it causes real harm. Let's focus on that emotional cost. How does the research talk about the trauma involved in just navigating the system?
Yeah, it's significant. Veterans consistently report feeling deep frustration and trauma just from having to tell their story again and again, retelling personal details, often difficult medical or psychological histories, repeatedly to different agencies, different people. Every time you go to a new service, a different ESO, maybe a new DVA contact, a mental health provider, you have to start from scratch. You're reopening old wounds, basically proving your case over and over.
And that must just destroy any trust, right? It sends a message that the system doesn't communicate internally, doesn't value your previous interactions.
Absolutely. Trust is a huge issue mentioned in the research. People report negative experiences, sometimes feeling communication from DVA is hostile or getting misinformation, feeling ignored, disregarded, even belittled. And when you're already vulnerable, those kinds of interactions, they cause anxiety, sure, but they also just make people disengage entirely. And word gets around in the community, these negative perceptions spread, and then others avoid seeking help they might desperately need. It becomes a cycle.
And often it's the family who has to step into that gap, right? They become the unofficial coordinators, but they're facing their own struggles.
Definitely. Families carry a massive emotional and financial load during a veteran's transition. They often sacrifice their own careers, their own well-being. But the system, it often doesn't have specific, tailored support for spouses or kids or carers. And what's really striking is this finding about financial well-being. The system sometimes seems based on this old-fashioned understanding.
What do you mean by that?
Like it assumes a single breadwinner model for the family.
Okay. Which is completely out of step with modern life for most people. If you've got a veteran transitioning, maybe medically, and the family relies on two incomes, the pressure on the partner to suddenly cover everything, income and care, must be immense.
Exactly. And that vulnerability peaks during medical separation. Which brings us to probably the most serious risk factors highlighted in the sources. When the system fails to provide that seamless, coordinated support during transition, the consequences can be truly catastrophic.
Yeah, the statistics around suicide risk for medically separated veterans they're incredibly sobering. We need to handle this carefully.
We do. The data is stark. Ex-serving members who leave involuntarily for medical reasons, their risk of suicide is significantly higher than the general population here in Australia. For ex-serving men, it's 184% more likely.
Wow.
And for ex-serving women, the risk is tragically even higher, almost 5 times, or 398% more likely than other Australian women.
Those figures are just staggering. It
Yeah.
really underscores that the system might be failing the very people who need it most, right, when they're most vulnerable. The data shows 1,763 deaths by suicide among those with ADF service since 1985, recorded between 97 and 2022. It's just the current situation isn't sustainable.
No, it's not. And that urgency, that's what's fueling this strong push from the community for real change, for simplification, for better access. They want a system that's genuinely trauma-informed and, crucially, centralized.
So what does that ideal system look like according to veterans and families? You hear this phrase a lot, the no wrong door approach.
That's the core principle, yes. No wrong door basically means that wherever a veteran or family member first reaches out for help, that point of contact should be a trusted source. It should connect them to all the information and services they need, even if those services technically sit with another agency. It means streamlining access, probably creating some kind of central hub, making it much easier to find critical health and mental health support especially. The idea is you walk into one place, one recognized service point, and you get guided to everything you're entitled to.
But how does that actually work, given the existing silos? The money, the legal responsibility, it still sits across defense, DVA, maybe health. Is non-wrong door just a promise of better directions, like better signposting, or is it actual integrated help?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And the community gets that, which is why the proposals go beyond just, say, a better website or helpline. They talk about building on the DVA hub model, making it more concrete. So physically putting key services together in one place, like open arms for mental health, maybe the Veterans Access Networks, Van Ann's, but not just having them in the same building, actually integrating them, getting them to work together, and also connecting them properly with mainstream community services like local health providers through some kind of community well-being plan. That moves it from just signposting towards actual coordinated service delivery.
Right, real integration. And that ties into trust and accountability, which we know is a major issue. What needs to happen to rebuild that trust if there is a more centralized coordinating body?
Independence is key. That came through loud and clear. Any new agency or structure designed to coordinate this needs to have actual and perceived independence. It can't just look like another arm of defense or DVA.
Okay.
Because trust, fundamentally, it's built on transparency, on feeling respected, feeling empathy. But ultimately, it comes down to delivery. Does the system actually provide the benefits and support it promises, reliably and on time? If a new system feels just like the old one, that trust won't come back.
And part of making it feel different is about the people working within it, isn't it? There's a strong call for lived expertise.
Huge demand for it. It's seen as crucial for creating that culture of empathy and inclusivity. The community really wants to see agency staff, and especially leadership, who have lived experience as veterans themselves or as family members. The idea is that this ensures co-design, developing services with the community is genuine, not just a tick box exercise. Lived expertise helps get past the surface issues and tackle the deeper stuff, like the specific barriers faced by women veterans, for example, where past negative experiences within the military might unfortunately get replicated in the support system.
Okay, so let's pull these threads together. We've looked at this incredibly fragmented ecosystem. We've seen the really high emotional cost of navigating it, especially the terrible vulnerability of those separating for medical reasons. And we've heard the clear, unified call from the community for something different: centralized, trauma-informed, independent support.
Yeah, and if you look at the bigger historical picture, this commitment to veterans isn't new. It goes back over 100 years, right to the start of the Repatriation Commission in 1918. That original system aimed for comprehensive care. So this current push for reform, for centralized access, for real accountability, you could argue it's trying to finally deliver on that original century-old promise. It's like reviving that initial commitment, but it's pushing against decades of, institutional inertia and complexity.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Is the problem just about bureaucracy and too many organizations? Or, as some sources suggest, is there a cultural drift at play? Where those military norms, stoicism, suppressing emotions, pushing through pain, have kind of seeped into the support system itself? How much does the way the system is currently designed, or perhaps not designed, actually reinforce that deep cultural stigma? The stigma that might stop veterans from reaching out for the help they've earned and absolutely deserve.
You've just heard a conversation built and presented entirely by AI from official sources. No speculation, no shortcuts. From Royal Commission findings to lived experience, we're unpacking the veteran ecosystem. If this episode helped you make sense of the system or gave voice to something you've felt but couldn't name, consider subscribing and liking the channel. That way, you'll be notified when the next episode drops. Send a link to a mate if you think they might benefit from synthesizing the massive information too. We'll upload at least one a week, each tackling a major issue with clarity, dignity, and zero spin. There will be 10 main episodes and many more spin-offs. This isn't just a podcast. It's clarity that is easy to consume and will help to mobilize those who really care.